What's up, guys? Saints Venny here, bringing you episode 2 of the formation, guys. As I promised, you might have seen last week my top 5 formations, and this week we're going to be going into the 4-2-3-1 to kickstart everything. Every week there'll be a new formation every Monday, or basically me giving you the best custom tactics for me, and hopefully it's the best custom tactics for you. I always say when it comes to custom tactics, just because it works for me does not mean it's going to work for you, so be very aware of that. But we'll go into some finer details of custom tactics in the 4-2-3-1 and how it works, just in general play. But yeah, before we get into the finer details, though, don't forget to subscribe if you're new around here, or if you're just not subscribed to the channel yet. It helps the channel grow. The aim is to hit 5k by the end of April, so we've got 1,000 subs to go. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be a hard ass, and also leave a like because it does help the channel grow, and just allows people to see the video a little bit more. But yeah, let's get into it. And just to prove to you all, this is probably going to be the one formation I'm going to be the most knowledgeable about. This is my go-to formation since FIFA 18 and the last 3 weeks. To give you a bit of an understanding, I've got top 100 3 times in a row now on Xbox. 2 29s and 130. Bottled the 30 this week, which is absolutely heartbreaking. I'll be honest with you, because I think I'm like 99.9% sure I would have been able to get into the top 10 with my skill rating, but we currently sit 46 with 29 wins. So yeah, hopefully it makes us stay in top 100. Otherwise, we're going to be a little bit bugged, because 29 wins got to be enough for top 100, especially on Xbox. But this is a team. It doesn't really matter about the team and stuff like that. We're here for the formation. Just give you an idea. This is the team. If you want to know about certain players, what you see on the screen, just put in the comments and I can let you guys know. Such as I'm assuming you guys want to know how good Sissoko is and also how Rashford is if you see this. So yeah, ask away in the comments and I'll go into finer details with that. So let's talk. Okay, I'm gonna set it to 4-2-3-1 right here, and then we're going to just basically talk what basically works and what doesn't, and just general stuff about the 4-2-3-1. So in the top 5 formations, I mentioned how the meta is played, and I'm going to go once over the meta again and how 4-2-3-1 makes it super efficient. The meta of this game is to basically slow build up, because especially if you're playing people who are very defensive and not actually pressing you too much. If you're playing people with pressure, you could just basically play your normal game. But if you're playing people who are very defensive and not trying to pressure and give you the spaces you need, this is the meta. You go slow build up all the way through into your cams, into your striker, and what you're trying to aim for is your back to goal or a half turn, and being able to achieve a first time scoop turn, just a scoop turn in general, a half drag back, an elastico, whatever you feel is needed in their 1v1 situation. You're basically holding the ball to try and get them 1v1 situations across the final basically third of the opponent's box. So you'll have that quite often with your striker into their 2 centre backs. This is why I like to have a 5-star skiller up there, because you can do the first time scoop turn to be able to give yourself an angle. The reason I have really fast wingers with Mane and Rashford is because they will make a run just naturally behind the wing backs quite often. So that is why they are high pace, and yeah. And the same thing with Cam, it's just part of the build-up. So yeah, as I usually say, the build-up for me, I most notice is like, we start at the right backs, we play it down the wing, we come back inside, even if that's going into the DMs or straight into the Cam, and then you go to your striker to try and turn them, and then basically build up your play from there, and so on. But yeah, what are the pros about 4-2-3-1? It's probably the most stable, most consistent formation you're going to be using in FIFA 20. Probably in FIFA for a long time. It's been one of the best formations in competitive FIFA for a long time as well. What type of players I would say suit this is the more passive players. You're quite possession based. You're not really too fussed about trying to force attacks. You can go fast with the 4-2-3-1. Obviously, that just comes down to preferences on how you play. But I would say this formation suits the more passive players, just in general. And yeah, as I said about the pros, you know, it suits the meta with how you want to play. Especially if you've got 2 5-star skillers and 5-star weak foots in cam and striker, I think it's the most essential thing. Maybe I'll give you a little bit of explanation what type of players I'm looking for in different positions. Actually, that might be a nice addition to this. So the 2 CDMs, I usually try and get at least one person who's quite a defensive-minded player. So as you see on your screen, Sissoko, and the other player, a guy who can bring the ball forward, very even though he's got medium-high work rates. For me, I see him as an attacking defensive midfielder because really good dribbling, good shooting, good passing. He can do it all when it comes to the attacking side. It's either I go with that or I try and get two DMs who can basically do all sort of box-to-box-esque, so like a De Jong, and I've used 91 Zidane, who's been really good, or you could use De Jong, Firmino, or Marcelo, or Sissoko. Because to be honest with you, even though I say this guy is quite a defensive-minded player, he's still very good going forward because of just his natural strength and his power, what he brings to you. My wingers, my Ram and Lamb, I'm looking for fast pace, just raw pace, and that's it really. Being able to take the player one-on-one is also key, but just to basically wing bash with them, they're not really there to score goals. You know, my Cam and Striker are the guys to score goals, as you'll see with just how the team is built in general. And then Neymar is the person who I've got. Cam, if you can afford Neymar, whatever your price range, get Neymar and play him Cam or Striker, because them 5-star skills and the way he feels on the ball is just phenomenal. So he's definitely worth a buy. Cams, I'm looking for them agile guys, basically 5-star weak foot or 5-star skills, just to, you know, be the instructor of the attack. Is that right? I think that's right. And then strikers, you can sort of go with anyone really who you want up top. Personally, I try and go for a 5-star weak foot. I think that's quite an essential thing this year. It's either they have to have 5-star weak foot or 5-star skills. They have to have one of the two, so I can basically utilize that as one of my strengths into the game. But yeah, there's a little bit of detail before we actually get into further custom tactics with the 4-2-3-1. Rambled on a little bit there, but you know, you get the idea why we're doing this. So you guys would have probably seen my custom tactics. If you haven't seen my custom tactics, this is basically them. As I said, I've hit 29, 30, and 29 in the last 3 weeks with these custom tactics, and I'm going to go into detail of how they work and why they work for me. So 5 width, 4 depth is the defensive style. Offensive style is 5 width, 4 depth, 4 players in the box, and that is because I'm keeping this basic as possible. I find when I'm using too much or trying to think about it too much, just put that down to 3. It is, you know, it's not playing the way I want it to play. So, like, let's say if I put this to 8 players in the box, why am I putting that 8 players in the box? It doesn't make sense to me. They don't really do that run anyway. So let me just keep it basic, keep it standard, keep it probably what I've been using for many years before even custom tactics became a thing. I've got 4 depth and balanced, and no one will come back. And this is due to naturally the game brings players AI quite defensively anyway. So you could probably, I'm not even joking, you could use 7 depth off the bat, and still your team, once they're in your half and once they're in your final third, it's still going to be very compact. It's just how the game is. So I just got 4 depth, so I can press slightly higher, just a natural press. If you watch my gameplay stuff on Champs Highlights, or you just come into my stream, you'll know quite aggressive when I'm defending. I'm trying to play a switch quite often and just ring whoever out as pop who I can. So yeah, 4 depth and 5 width just to keep the standard width into it. I'm going to give you 2 options, well, 3 options really when it comes to the depth option. You can go either 4, which is quite I'll say it's quite standard. You can press, you can be quite defensive with it. It's just quite, it's in the middle. It's perfect in my opinion. If you want to be a more aggressive player, I would say go 6 depth. You're not taking too much risk still when you're doing the press, but you're still being quite aggressive in the pressing sort of style. And if you want to be a more defensive style, go 3 depth, and then obviously it's in the pudding, you know, it's there. Like, you're going to be very defensive when you're doing that. You're not going to probably be able to press too crazy. But yeah, 6 width if you're going to be an aggressive player, 4 if you can basically be aggressive just with natural stuff, or 3 if you want to be defensive minded. I would do recommend going 3 depth if you're trying to hold out a lead, even lower if you want, if you really want to scrub it out. 6 width depth is a little bit too low, that if you're trying to bring the game back, if you're behind, I literally up it to like 9, 8 if I can when trying to bring the game back. Also important to notice when you're trying to bring the game back, up your defensive width, because what happens, a lot of people try and play the wing play and they just switch the ball, and your team will, so when you have your width higher, you can naturally just press them higher because your player's placement is a lot higher and wider. So yeah, definitely recommend putting that up if need be, and players in the box and stuff. And yeah, So that's quite basic with how stuff is. Obviously, you can use pressure on heavy touch, press after possession loss, and drop back. Don't use drop back. You don't need it because obviously, as I mentioned, the defensive AI is still quite deep anyway, and you can just lower your depth on balanced, and you can still be quite aggressive when you play on like a free depth, just because you're at least on balance. You know, players are not just sitting back as they do. Pressure on heavy touch, press after possession loss are both two good options if you want to be a really aggressive player. But if you're trying to maximize your wins in foot chance, keep it at balance, keep it basic. And yeah, that'll get you results. Offensive style, as I say, keep this basic for me. I don't want to confuse it too much. Always keep everything the same though for at least 2 weeks before you change custom tactics. Now, in my opinion, I was an advocate of changing it basically week in, week out, and that was because I thought, oh yeah, but I haven't done well that weekend, so maybe if I change this, it's going to give me extra wins. Because it's like, but no. I'm just not used to the player positioning. I'm not used to who's going where when I'm changing everything up so often. So let me keep it basic with what I'm doing and just have 5-4. That's a decent enough width. I can play tight. I can play wide if need be. 4 players in the box gives me a nice options, as you see. That would probably mean that the striker and the winger, or the striker and the cam comes in, and then obviously you got your 2 DMs sort of sitting on the edge if it actually does what it says. But to be honest with you, it doesn't. But on paper it looks nice. If you want to be a little bit more defensive and just a little bit more just, you know, control the game, possession is a nice option to do. Long ball, fast build up are both good options if you want to be an aggressive player. If you want to be aggressive, like really aggressive with your play, I would say long ball's better than fast build up, because what happens with fast build up, your wing backs fly up, your DMs fly up, and actually sometimes when you're coming out of defense, you need that short option to be able to basically build up in the play. So you can go long ball, but I only recommend going to fast build up and long ball if you're not the greatest at triggering the runs, or you have quite defensive tactics already. So let's say if you play on free depth and come back on all your players, then use long ball, because you're basically counting that formation style when you got the ball. So yeah, for me, keep it balanced, keep it basic, just simple how it comes. And then up next, we'll get into the player instructions and keep it quite basic when it comes to the player such things. Why is that? Oh, it's because I've put it to 4-2-3-1, isn't it? Let me just quickly swap that just so people don't get confused. The FIFA menus are the worst. Mane, Neymar. Okay, just so you all don't get confused when I'm explaining everything. Because as I said, I want the pace on the wings and so on. Stay back on your right backs and left backs. You do not, and I mean this, you do not want to have balanced or join the attack. Only unless you're losing. Because if you're losing, then you can put them on, and obviously you have more aggressive wing backs, and that was going to give you options to score. But make sure you have it on stay back, because the meta of this game is sit back and counter attack. That's all people do, man. So why are you making yourself easier to be counter attacked when you have balance and join the attack on your wing backs? Have stay back, have a secure defense. You're always going to have at least these 4 at the back, which is going to be a bonus. And if you've got the OP sweaty players, well, to be fair, as long as you've got Van Dijk, you'll be calm. It's all good. So yeah, stay back on all these. Nothing changing here. Goalkeeper, keep us balanced. I've seen some people try, what is it? I think it's like sweeper keeper. Don't do that. Do not do that. It doesn't work. It does work, but you're gonna get found out very quick. Because people can just play a through ball. Your keeper's already halfway out. Ball roll in, open goal. You know. But yeah. Onto the DMs, you've got a few different options of different styles you can play with your DMs. Naturally, I've always used like one unbalanced or both unbalanced. I haven't really used stay back, but last, I would say, month or so, maybe 2 months, I started using stay back. I just thought, let me be more secure at the back. And still, even when I played with this formation, I noticed one of my DMs always helps with the attack, and sometimes even both of them help with stay back. So still gives me plenty of the options, because my problem with the 4-2-3-1, a lot of times you can get countered in when you're attacking, because you've only got 4 people up top, and you do need them defensive runs, well, from deep runs from your like DMs to give you an option to basically just pull out players here and there across the pitch, so you have more space with the players you want it. So I have stay back on my 2 DMs right now. I think that's the best, just to be more safe. You can use one on balance though. If you want to have one of them just sort of bombing forward, sort of a box to boss esque player, But as I mentioned, if you can trigger your runs well, or whatever it may be, you can just use them and stay back and be fine when it comes to that. Cover center is important to add though. This is because, as it basically says, it covers the center of the pitch rather than the wing of the pitch. And a lot of people come through the center. Their build up is maybe start wide and then come into the center. As long as you have your DMs in them central positions, they'll be able to control the game, be able to get interceptions, them cheesy like AI interceptions. Make sure you have it on cover center because it's definitely worth adding. Onto the cams. I try not to do too much when it comes to these. I've currently got get in the box for crosses on my Ram and Lamb. Heads up, if you're using PlayStation or you're playing on PlayStation, there is a problem with crosses right now. When you cross the ball, either an RBS or just a cross in general or corner, and you score from it, there seems to be like an error code what comes up, like a blue screen. You get kicked out of your game, so just be wary when doing crosses, because I'll go into detail why I've just mentioned that. Because when I'm using Ram and Lambs, and when I'm playing down the wings and I play the ball, and I'll commonly see my Lamb basically doing a back post run, and he'll just get in front of the wing backs quite often. And the reason you get in the box is so they just naturally always go into the box. If you have on balance or stay on the edge, obviously they're not going to try and get past that wing back. They're just going to be quite standard unless you trigger the run. With getting the box, they just naturally do that back post run, and with an RBX you can quite often basically find that pass to the back post, open goal. Basically, you just got to shoot across goal. Can go wrong, but it is what it is. So that's why I've got to get in the box. But you don't really need to add it if you want to be, if you don't want it. To be honest with you. So yeah, just keep that in mind when actually crossing on this game. I think it might even happen on Xbox, but I haven't seen it happen to too many people, and it hasn't happened to me when I was crossing this weekend. So yeah. Balance on the cams. We're keeping this basic. We don't need to do anything too different. The only thing what I've messed around with in the most common recent times is free roam on my Precision Freedom, and that is just because I don't know, I was bored. It was more than that. Was the only reason I went to free roam. It was I was bored and I wanted to try something, so I went to free roam on it. Didn't find it too interesting, so went back to basics. One thing I might try next week is stay on the edge of the box for crosses. I used to use this in previous months and it worked really well, so I might have a little look into that when playing. One tactic you can add to be super cheesy if you're trying to be really defensive or you're trying to hold out a lead. This is what you do. Come back on defense on all three of your cams, and I'm telling you, you're going to be on lockup. You're going to be on lockup, but I don't recommend playing it like that. I think you're going to have more fun playing the way you want to play and being aggressive style, so don't do that, basically. I'll be honest with you, most recent times I've been trying to be more aggressive in attack and defense with just basic play, and I'm enjoying the game slightly more than I was previously, because previously I wasn't enjoying it too much, but now being aggressive is it's quite interesting. Defensive support. As I mentioned, you can come back on 3 of your DMs, your cams, and be super defensive, or you can keep them on balance. What I see a lot of pros, a lot of, I don't know, I think this is a tactic for the people who, I don't know, like I seen Kurt use this when he was playing at the start of the year. He uses stay forward in his cam, and that is because I think he uses his cam as his central point of coming out of defense. So what he'll do, obviously, win the ball with his like defensive players. And because of the stay forward on his Neymar's always in a position where you can ping it into him and basically play from there. For me, I don't use this on stay forward. I have it on balance. So what happens, I'm quite often building up with everyone on the pitch instead of like that being my central piece. I'm sometimes going to my right back, my left back, being a little bit more defensive when it comes to passing. Or I'm going to my Mane, or I'm going to my Rashford. It all depends on who's in the right place. With stay forward on your Neymar, you're always going to have that central point of coming out of defense and using him as that. Strikers, you can use whatever you want on your striker. I'll be honest with you, apart from false nine, I would say. You can obviously use your comeback if you want to be super defensive. Stay forward if you want to be more aggressive. Stay forward is not too bad option as well, but I've got it on balanced right now. Support run. So let's talk this first. As you see, I'm using drift wide. The reason I'm using drift wide, I went into this in my top 100 custom tactics, and I'll explain it to you guys again. What happens when I have drift wide is when I've got the ball on ram and my lamb, and I need that next pass. You know, I've got up to probably like 2/3 of the pitch, and I just need that extra run behind the wing backs now to basically break the play even more. When I don't have that on drift wide, my R9 will tend to run to the wide and then come back into the middle. With drift wide, he will carry on running out wide, and he'll give me that extra pass, and then obviously I can play from there. I can do an extra fake shot, just go to the byline and cut it back, whatever the situation needs. Basically, I'll obviously respond to it. So yeah, that's why I've got drift wide. You don't really need to put drift wide. People just have that on balance. Some people even use stay central, but personally, I'm using drift wide. It's just been a strong instruction for me from the start. Attacking runs. Once again, I'm using something different. I'm using target man. A lot of people use getting behind or even balanced, which I don't blame them. Both of them work really well. For me, you'll notice with target man, the player's positioning is crazy. Like, it's completely different to how it is on balance and getting behind. They just basically occupy certain pitches and positions in the pitch to give you options to going forward. And I personally prefer it. And as I said about the meta, was like you want to have your back to goal a lot of the time for your striker and being able to turn them. For some reason, the target man just basically tees it up to perfection. So that's why I've got it on target man. You do not. I see this like a few people have asked about like this last time. They're like, oh, can this player work in target man? Can this player work in power? Every player, every player can work in target man. It doesn't matter. Cruyff, Neymar, R9, CR7. I've just listed like the most expensive players in the game. Messi. It doesn't matter. Tall, big, strong, weak. Doesn't matter. It's just natural position, and they will become in target man. So keep that in mind when you use it. I know a lot of people have enjoyed it since they put it on, so definitely recommend trying out target man. It's a little bit different with how your striker basically plays, and it's quite nice, especially if you have two, like a cam who can score goals, and you like using as I say, Neymar for me is like a GOAT on this game. So R9 and Neymar, I always say in my chance highlights, it's literally the R9 Neymar show in the whole game. Hopefully this formation guide gives you some help with the 4-2-3-1, gives you a little bit of explanation what I'm using, why I'm using it, what you can use to depending on your play styles. But yeah, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and peace.